Once again, welcome to this APH Access Academy Building Literacy. If I could say the title right, I apologize. With Building Literacy with the Sensing and Learning Approach. Uh, I would like to turn it over to our presenters, Tristan Pierce and Stacey Chambers.
Okay, thank you. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, this is Tristan and Stacey is going to introduce herself in just a second. So what I will do is see if I can't advance my screen. I'm not sure we practiced that before we were doing this. There we go. Okay, so this is, I'm Tristan Pierce. I'm an APH product manager. I've been here for what is this, 2024 now? So over 23 years, I guess. I started in 2000, November 2000. And I worked along with Millie Smith, who is in the center of our photo here, developing the first SLK and several other products as well. And when we got ready to revise the SLK, Millie met Stacey Chambers, who is also in the photo there. And she and Millie collaborated on doing a case study of four, I believe, Stacey students. And she can tell you a little bit about that. And APH helps support that by providing the videographer and then the time to creating all the videos and stuff here in-house. So it's been a great collaboration. It's been wonderful to work with Stacey. The photo I'm showing you here is the three of us, Stacey, Millie, and myself, at AER down in Florida one year, presenting on the preliminary results of that research. So Stacey, would you like to say something at this point?
Absolutely. I'm Stacey Chambers. I am currently an itinerant teacher of students with visual impairments in Coppell, Texas. And it's just been my absolute honor to get to work with Tristan and Millie for the past several years on sensing and learning. It has completely changed the way I understand students with significant disabilities and cognitive disabilities. And it's given me so much confidence in my role and how to help students make progress. I've been able to dive in kind of head first, working with Millie for about 10 years now and training teachers all over the country on this approach. And it just, every time it makes me more passionate about this work because I see the impact that it has. So I'm grateful to be here any chance I get to be able to share about this work and connect others to this incredible resource. I'm just so grateful. So thank you for having me.
Okay, as you can tell, Stacey's very, very energetic about this. So, and I appreciate that so much. So first, I'm just going to read off our objectives for the session. And this is the second time Stacey and I have done this. We originally presented this at annual meeting last October. So objective one, this session will help participants examine the research behind the sensing and learning approach. Number two, this session will help participants identify the key components for instruction for a learner with a visual impairment and severe disabilities. And number three, this session will help participants access digital tools that support successful application of the sensing and learning approach. So I guess a lot of people, when this first came out, if you had used the SLK or the sensory learning kit for any time at all, when this came out, you were probably screaming like, you know, what? No kit? You know, where's the kit? So I just thought maybe I needed to explain this a little bit here on the screen. I'm showing you the front cover of the new book called Sensing and Learning. And then we have the book open to a chapter, chapter 7, and it's a photograph of Millie Smith speaking with a teacher in Texas, Janice Jefferson. And that was a wonderful time I spent down there with them when we were filming and photographing all of this. So that was in, yeah, Frisco, Texas, yeah. So, so just let me say the reason we don't have a kit. It was for numerous things, okay. The production floor here had kind of been asking us to pare down some of our kits because they were getting so large. And one of the things that we were experiencing, and this was prior to COVID, okay? COVID just sealed the deal. But just prior to COVID, whenever an item in a kit goes on back order, it holds that entire kit up. And so nobody gets their kit, you know, if a product's on back order for 1 month or 2 months or something, because maybe you're waiting for one item, you know, nobody's benefiting if it's just sitting, you know, back on the production floor waiting for one item to come in. So the majority of the larger, the bigger items that were in the SLK that APH actually designed and manufactured, which was the environmental control unit, the Power Select, our switches, our vibrating pad we developed, those are items that were also available as individual products. They were a standalone product. You could order as many vibrating pads as you wanted separately. You know, you could order as many stick switches as you wanted. So those were already available for you to order. But this way, if we were holding up the kits because one of those were on back order, then, you know, like I said, no one was benefiting. So we decided to really focus on the methodology, and Millie really felt like changing the name to Sensing and Learning really described what this whole new learning approach was about. So like I said, you can still get all those big items, you know, just the small little items we discontinued. And, you know, I always ask everybody, how many of you really needed that pinwheel? You know, was that pinwheel just absolutely, you know, the most important thing in your kit? So it were those items like that we felt we could go ahead and do without. They're very easily found in dollar stores and places like that, but it's very hard for you to get a vibrating pad that has a casing on it that is completely, you know, water protected and could operate with a switch. So that was our whole reasoning as to why we no longer offer a large kit. And as we'll go through this, and Stacey will be very happy to tell you, I'm sure, that it's not all the items in the kit that was the most important thing. It's the assessments, the learning strategies, and the use of routines. So that's really what we want to get through with this new book to everybody. So I think if there's no questions about that, I will turn it over to Stacey.
Yes, as Tristan shared, back in 2014, Millie came to do a training with me and my team in Coppell. And it was at that time that she was really looking for a district to partner in a research study. And so, of course, we jumped on that opportunity and we were able to partner with her to take 4 case study students from assessment through intervention and really take data on the improvements and progress that we were able to see. And I want to introduce you with this photo to one of those students, and this is Arna, and she is kind of our star of Sensing and Learning. You will see her examples all throughout the book. So we thought it would be great today as we go through the different pieces of the approach to really highlight her videos and show you those examples today as we go through. And I believe in your resources, there'll also be a link to the article that we published from that research in the Journal of Visual Impairments and Blindness in 2020. So it's exciting to have that research, to be able to know that it is fueling our interventions and that we have the data to back us up on the impact of this work. So that's really exciting. And a lot of those pieces really helped inform the updates in Sensing and Learning that we'll talk about today.
Yeah, and I just would like to add that the videos and the documentation that Stacey's talking about, that's a very important key component of this, and we'll be probably asking you some questions later on in this presentation about if you're actually using stuff like that. So we'll move on here.
Okay, so today as we talk about the Sensing and Learning approach, we really want to recognize that this is geared towards the students on our caseload with the most significant physical and cognitive disabilities. These are the students functioning at the sensory motor stage of cognitive development. And this is really key because it's important as teachers to really understand where our students are cognitively, developmentally, so that we know what kind of skills we need to teach them and help develop. So I really like this infographic. It's of Piaget's stages of cognitive development, a little refresher for us. Even after all these years, Piaget is still our gold standard for how we understand cognitive development. And I really like how this has it laid out. We have at the very beginning a child in a high chair. He's representing the sensory motor stage, that birth to 2 level, and they're interacting with a glass of water. If this was a live video, they'd probably be splashing in the water, spilling it over, throwing off the high chair, putting their face and hands all in it. Their work, their job at the sensory motor stage is to interact with objects, to really take in as much information as they can, using all of their senses to really experience those objects and learn about what they are. And it's not until the next stage, the child next to them, that represents the pre-operational stage. It's not until that stage that we really start to see the symbolic understanding, that language development really take hold. We have a picture of a student and there's a little thought bubble and a water droplet really representing that symbolic understanding that's taking place. And as the picture continues, we have an older child really helping, really demonstrating a more abstract and more integrated thoughts about these objects. And so it's really important as we think about and assess our students for this sensing and learning approach that we recognize the sensory motor stage learner and the foundations of communication that are built at this stage. That's really what we're going to be focusing on with this approach.
Okay, so this here, as Millie was working on this new book, she would send out chapters as she got them done to TVIs that she knew who worked with this population and who she knew had used the original sensory learning kit for many years. And so as they reviewed her chapters, before she even sent them to me, she would send them out to people. And they came back asking her to provide a type of a graphic like this to kind of demonstrate how it kind of goes in that circle of assessment and teaching. You measure the progress and you revise and expand and all of that. You know, you have your assessment, which we're showing in the pink here, and then your teach, your measure progress, and your revise and expand. They all use that strategy of routines. Like the original SLK, which was color-coded, we've also color-coded this kit so that if you're looking at your book and you want to flip through your book, you want to find anything dealing with assessment, you look for the pink on the bottom of your book. That color bleeds off the book. And then teach, measure progress, and revise and expand. That's all part of your teaching. You look for the purple pages in your book. And then if you want to go straight to the routine templates that we provide, you go to the gold pages in your book. So that's kind of how it's all outlined, trying to just make it easier to use for you. We know you may be in a hurry when you're working with people and you need to be able to access something quickly. So you can just go to the bottom of your book and grab that color and hopefully that will help you move on quickly. So, okay, and I do have up here a link here that will take you directly to the shopping page for sensing and learning. And it takes you directly to the tab that allows you to download an Excel format of all the assessment forms, if you would like, and even including the medical form, and that's not an assessment form, of course, but that link will take you to a tab where you can access and just download that form and then, you know, save it under each student's name or code or whatever, and you'll have a form for each of your students.
Okay, I think we're ready to really dive in and take a closer look at this approach and what you'll find in sensing and learning. We talked about the fact that we're really focusing on our students at the sensory motor stage of cognitive development. So the first assessment that we are going to do as part of this approach is determine the student's present level. One of the things that sensing and learning does is break down the sensory motor stage and give us even smaller targets to look at. They've defined some zones within the sensory motor stage. You can see here it's extended states, attention zone, exploration zone, and function zone. And we're going to break these down. What this does is really help look at our student. What are the micro skills that they need to learn to move through the sensory motor stage? What do we need to teach them to help them develop these skills? And the very first thing we need to do is determine where they are within the stage. And that's going to be our present level process. But we're going to take a little closer look to really understand these different zones. The first zone in the sensory motor stage is attention. You may have noticed on the previous slide, we had extended states listed there. And that is technically not a zone of our sensory motor stage, but many of our students with significant physical and cognitive disabilities often are experiencing a lot of time in an extended states. These are students that are maybe fussy, tired, sleeping, agitated. They're very difficult to engage or alert. And this is pretty common, especially for our students who have a lot of medical needs and just complexities that they're battling against various points in their day, medications and things like that. So for those students, we are going to be really focusing on helping build attention level skills. And so let's talk a little bit about what this attention zone involves. Students at the attention zone are showing us that they have the ability to maintain attention on a person, an object, or an action. So these are the students when you present an item, maybe a red pom-pom or a fun musical toy, that they alert. They show you that they are maybe enjoying that object and they're looking at it, their body's moving, they're listening to the object. They're showing us that they're able to engage and maintain attention. Maybe they're beginning to anticipate something that's going to happen next. They're showing a little bit of that emerging anticipation within regularly occurring routines. They're able to have mutual attention on an object and engage with that social experience with another person. They're responding to a partner, and maybe they're requesting some continuation of that activity. Maybe when you're showing them the pom-pom and you stop, that they open their eyes a little brighter or move their body to kind of request some more of that activity. So these are some things that we might observe a student doing. And if they're doing this already, then their present level would be at this attention zone. If not, and they're mainly in that extended state, then these are the types of skills that we can target within our instruction. Tristan, you can move on to the next slide. We are going to be talking about the next zone, which is exploration zone.
Hang on, it's not advancing, so maybe I have to. Yeah,
There we go.
Just
Perfect.
had to really hit hard.
That's all good. Okay, so we have a student who is showing us that they have the ability to maintain attention. They are alerting to objects. And once that is established, they have the ability to learn and go to the next zone. And so that is when we start to begin seeing students take the initiative to interact with objects in various ways. This is probably what you might have in mind for a sensory motor stage learner. These are the students that are reaching out. They are grabbing objects. They are banging two objects together. They're squeezing objects. They're putting objects in their mouth. They're exploring the textures of objects in a variety of ways. And this is the really important work of a sensory motor stage learner. This is a big place where we can come in and help teach and facilitate through hand under hand exploration strategies and teach them the ways that they can explore objects. This is really important because this is teaching them the cognitive skill of understanding their body's ability to interact with objects, and that's the foundation of cause and effect. This is also when we begin to see them imitate your actions and maybe request more of something by reaching for it, by making that movement towards exploration. And this is really important because when we're talking about building the foundations of communication, and literacy. This is the foundation of understanding what objects are. Our students with significant physical and cognitive disabilities may have a lot of barriers that come into play when it comes to their ability to explore. They're pretty limited to the items that are brought to them. Maybe they even have physical barriers that prevent their exploration. Maybe they don't have a lot of movement in their body to be able to explore objects. So this is where it's really important for us as educators to come in and help facilitate and teach these strategies. One of the really important kind of aha moments I can remember when Millie first came to work with our team. We we shared, well, how do we help our students explore? How can our students explore if they're barely able to move their hands or they don't have the ability to explore in these different ways? And so this is where this aha moment, when Millie shared that, we have to think about it in a different way when it comes to cognitive skills and growth, because exploration for many of our students is really more of a cognitive skill than a physical skill. We're trying to teach the cognitive skill of exploration, of cause and effect, of body to object interaction. And we can do that through modeling. We can do that through the routines that we're going to talk about later. And what we're looking for is students' ability to initiate, even with the most minor movement in their body, an action to explore an object. And we're going to show an example of that with Arna in a little while. And Millie's quote that she always says is, exploration is more mental than motor. And that's a big takeaway I want you to remember about the exploration zone. But as we begin to assess our students' present level, we want to be looking, do our students already show the ability to explore? Are they initiating these kinds of interactions with objects? If the answer is yes, then their present level is going to be this exploration zone. If they're attending to objects and not yet initiating exploration, then their present level is going to be the attention zone, and we are going to be teaching exploration zone skills. So I want you to be thinking about that as we talk about these different zones. What is their present level? And then the zone that follows, that's going to be our instructional level. That's where we are going to target our IEPs and our instructional skills that we're going to teach in our routines. So exploration, that's the second zone of the sensory motor stage. Tristan, you can move it to the function zone. That's our next zone.
I am trying.
Okay.
I'm starting to have in this fear, like, has the battery gone bad in my keyboard? That's my big fear. Come on.
All good, all good.
We are not working.
There we go.
I got it.
Went too fast. Okay.
I think my
Function
keyboard's
zone.
going bad. Okay.
No worries. Okay, so we have a student, if they're able to maintain attention on an object, and they are initiating exploration with objects, we're reaching for things, we're exploring them in different ways, or for the student with pretty significant disabilities, even if they are moving their body or initiating an action with an object that we help facilitate and execute for them. If they're showing us exploration, cause and effect level skills, the next level that comes after that is function. This is the function zone. This is when we begin to see that students show us they understand the purpose of an object that has an intended use. They're able to demonstrate their understanding of this. This would be the difference of if you had a hairbrush and you hand it to a student in the exploration zone, they're probably going to take that hairbrush and bang it on the table and feel it with their hands or put it in their mouth. They're exploring it, they're learning about it, they're doing a lot of important things in their beginning stages of exploration. Once they have a function level skill, they're going to take that brush and they're going to brush their hair with it. They're showing us that they understand what this object is and what it's for. Again, many of our students may not be able to fully execute the actions of an object and its function, and that is okay. As teachers, we can facilitate teaching them what those motor actions are like, and then we can look for the initiation of the movement that we're looking for. For a student with a hairbrush, maybe that means when they are holding the hairbrush with some assistance, they move their head down towards it because they know that's what it's supposed to do. Or maybe they slightly move it up towards their head. And as a teacher, we can help facilitate that action. But we're seeing the connection. We're seeing the cognitive understanding of the object. In function zone, tool use is also part of that. And this is where we begin to see intentional switch use beyond cause and effect, but switch use as a tool to make something happen with an object for a purpose. So we're really thinking that next level of using objects for a specific intended purpose. This is also the zone where we begin to kind of see some emerging, maybe symbol recognition or word association with an object. Okay, so we're beginning to see some reaching for objects with request for having an object symbol in a calendar box and reading that symbol and moving to the location of an activity or routine. So we're beginning to see those connections, and that's really, really important as we are establishing these foundations of communication. So these are our zones. These are the different places within our sensory motor stage that we are looking for as we do our present level assessment. It's so important that we take the time to look at our students and understand where they are. The sensing and learning approach and the tools that Tristan shared with the links and Excel spreadsheets are going to help us take the data for this present level assessment. What we're going to do when we do the assessment is that you're just going to observe your student in some everyday activities with a teacher that are pretty highly preferred. And you're going to take data on which of these zones the student is engaging with. You're going to take some data about how they're responding with objects and with people. And at the end, you're going to pull that data and decide which zone is the student spending the most time in. And that is going to be their present level. And again, this is critical because especially I've been working with so many teachers and teams working with students, and I find that a lot of us are spending time teaching students skills that are far beyond their current developmental level. And we're not seeing the kind of progress that we're hoping for with them. And so by determining where the student's present level is, we know exactly what skills come next. We know exactly what skills to teach them next so that we can really see the progress take place. And that's called the zone of proximal development. Understanding a student's present level gives us an indication of the student's zone of proximal development. This is based off the work of Vygotsky. This is the understanding that we need to teach our students just beyond their current level, just beyond their current horizon of understanding, as Millie would say, so that we can really teach them obtainable skills and move them in the right direction. So these are our zones. This is what we're looking for when we do our present level assessment. I believe next I'm going to be showing a video of Arna. When we did her present level assessment, we did some observations of her, just a little background. She's a student with CVI. She's a student who is a homebound student. So we did our present level assessments in the home. She's doing a little lotion routine with her teacher, Mallory, and we're just taking our observations of which zone are we observing Arna in during this routine. So Tristan, go ahead. I don't hear it, Tristan. I don't know.
Okay, so what we're going to need to do is if you will stop the video for just a moment, we can troubleshoot this very quickly. What I'm going to need you to do for a moment, Tristan, and thank you everyone for just your patience with this. You want to stop your screen share.
Okay, you guys don't hear the video when I turned on the
No,
audio?
no, but I'm going to walk you through the steps of what to do so that we can hear.
Okay, so I have to
So you
stop sharing?
stop screen sharing for a moment.
Okay.
Then go back in and go to screen share again, but this time, before selecting your screen, please look at the bottom left and click and check two boxes, share sound, optimize for video clip. And if you check both those, click the screen you want, start the video, it should work from the beginning.
applies lotion to her fingers and hands. Arna demonstrates attention by visually fixating on her teacher at times and by becoming still while lotion is applied. She demonstrates that she likes what is happening by smiling and vocalizing.
Okay, perfect. So as you can see, this is Arna engaging with her teacher in a lotion routine. And it's just the perfect example of a student at the attention zone. Arna is happy about what's going on. She's awake, she's alert, she's engaged, she's indicating to us that she's enjoying the lotion with smiles, with eye contact, with some movement of her mouth. Those are all things that we know about Arna and that help us know that she's attentive. She's showing us those attention level skills. What she's not doing is reaching out and touching the bottle. She's not rubbing her hands together with the lotion, and that's okay. By understanding her present level, we know that those are the kinds of things that we could work on with her, of having a more intentional interaction with objects and understanding what objects are for. But establishing that present level is key. And this is what we established for Arna, that attention zone is our present level.
December, establishing baseline, attention level.
I'm just gonna
Arna's
let it
homebound teacher,
play again,
Mallory
okay?
Duncan, engages Arna in a familiar lotion activity. Arna sits in her wheelchair while Ms. Mallory applies lotion to her fingers and hands. Arna demonstrates attention by visually fixating on her teacher at times and by becoming still while lotion is applied.
All right. Okay, so step one for sensing and learning assessments is the present level. The second assessment that we need to do is determine their learning media. And for our students at the sensory motor stage of development, really what this boils down to are which objects are going to be the most highly motivating and engaging objects that we can use for learning for our students. Again, some of our students are going to be working on attention level IEP goals. So building the ability to maintain attention on an object, we have to make sure it's something that they absolutely love. Some of our students are going to be working on exploration skills, initiating body to object contact. And this is a lot of work for some of our students. It has to get a big positive reaction and be worth all of that physical effort. Others of our students are going to be working on understanding function of objects. And so we need to think about what types of objects are going to get that reaction and be something that we can use in a daily routine for learning. So the learning media assessment, again, part of those links that Tristan has shared and will be in your handouts, what those assessments look like. And you can move to the next slide, Tristan, when you get a chance. We'll show you what ARNAs look like. Basically, we're going to be considering various sensory learning channels, coming up with some really great objects that we can use that may be new or different for our student. We want to expose them to some different kinds of things that they're not regularly engaged with in the classroom. And we want to see their reaction for things. And I will say one of my favorite parts of sensing and learning, it's brought forth from the SLK, is Millie's learning media assessment menu. It's in the appendix, and it just has some great ideas for types of materials you could use for your assessment. But you're going to introduce the assessment item to the student. You're going to indicate what system it is, visual, auditory, gustatory, whichever system it is. And then you're going to indicate if it's a plus or minus, did they like it or not like it? And then how much did they like it or not like it? And you're going to mark that with a 1, 2, or 3. And so you're going to get that information from the student. And then you're going to look at the accommodations that you shared when you shared that item. So maybe anything about the visual presentation or physical supports, anything about the room or the environment. And then you're also going to take a note of any delay that was observed. So all of this information is going to be really helpful to you as you pull the information, see some trends, and really try to look for items that have a +3 reaction. I see a question in the chat about a student that run and walk away. And all of this is going to be, and it brings up a great point. As you do any assessment with the student for a learning media assessment or present level, you really want to work closely with the team of professionals as you do these assessments. You want to work very closely with the classroom teacher. If you're itinerant, you're going to pull in your physical therapists, OTs, your speech professionals, paraprofessionals. You're going to bring everybody together to really talk about what are the best times of day, what are the best ways to present these materials, who's the best person to do this assessment. And a lot of times that information can help set the student up for the best opportunity to engage and get a good reaction. And some of those students who like that movement and who have that reaction, that could be something that you consider as a media item as well. Some of those vestibular type activities. Also, if your student is not engaging with any items because they're avoiding and maybe disengaging with what you're doing, their present level might be an extended state. They're having difficulty engaging. So all of that information you're going to utilize and take data in your assessment documents and use that to see, are there any trends here? For the learning media assessment, you're really looking for what +3 items does my student show us that they really love? We're going to pull out any of those things. And that's what we have here. This is our observation record. And then we pull out information into a summary for Arna of the things that she really, really liked. I do want to make one note about, as we're doing these assessments, one of the strategies that my team consistently utilizes is video observation. Because we work within such a tight-knit team and we want everybody's opinions and feedback about these observations, we try to take videos every single time we observe and we introduce items for the learning media assessment, because we can take those videos and then look at them later to compare and also get everybody's feedback. And that's so critical, especially for these students who maybe have really minor reactions to things, or maybe some of us might need to kind of discuss and collaborate about if those reactions are really positive or if they're not. And so those are really, really important factors to bring in, and the videos are a great tool that helps us to do that.
Stacey, this is Erin. I have a poll question that is framed around videoing lessons to gain information.
Okay.
And we are launching that. Maybe. I'm sorry, we're having technical difficulties here. Let me try one more time. Here we go. So the poll question is asking, do you video your students to track their progress?
Yes, definitely interested in people's responses here. Obviously, when I present on this, I often get questions about consent and things like that. And so anytime that we're taking videos of our students, we always make sure that we have consents and we have a really safe platform to share that with our team. And so that's definitely something you want to consider before you utilize video with your students if you're not already.
Yeah, and I think also, Stacey, that it's so important if you have that video when attending IEP meetings. It not only shows the administration that, you know, the good job your team is doing, but it also shows the family members of that student that they can actually see the progress throughout the quarter, semester, or school year.
Absolutely. You know, we're talking about the assessments at this point, and I heavily utilize video for assessments, but we use video as well to track progress as we begin doing those interventions. As an itinerant teacher, I really rely on video to be able to see my students' routines taking place, just because, you know, there's days when I come to observe and the student is asleep, or there's a fire drill, or somebody's not feeling well. It's just the nature of how things go. So videos can be helpful for me as somebody consulting on a goal, and then a huge way to celebrate with families when we see that big student progress.
So we have about fairly close split, but a little under half of our participants do not use the videoing. But then we have real close between yes, I do video, and I do not video my lessons. We've got about 30% who do video, and we have about 24% who do not video. And I apologize, I said that wrong. The no's reference using those videos for progress tracking.
Gotcha.
Thank
Okay,
you for your
that's great
participation.
information. Definitely. And then I have another great question in the chat about this learning media assessment tool. The ratings for +1, 2, and 3 scores, all that is described in the book. So we are just kind of highlighting some of the key pieces here for the book. It really goes into a lot of great detail about how to do it, how to score it. And there's even some other assessment pieces you can pull from the present level and learning media to take a closer look at sensory efficiency and positioning. And there's a lot of great information, and it definitely goes into great detail about how to conduct these assessments and score them. So that will be very, very helpful to you for sure. But this is just an overview. So the main assessments that you're going to need for designing your instruction, which is going to look like an instructional routine, is going to be determining a present level, because that's going to help you identify what kind of goal you want to work on in your routine. And then the learning media assessment is going to tell you what kind of objects am I going to use as a topic for my routine. So you can see how this assessment is really helping to guide our instruction that we're going to develop for the student. Okay, so we're going to kind of talk now about what that instruction will look like. So we've talked about how routines are really the main key instructional strategy for students at this stage of development. Routines in general, a routine is a term that we talk about a lot in education for a lot of different reasons. We use routines with students of all ages and with all kinds of sensory and developmental needs, because it helps us. It helps us kind of know what's coming, what's going to be expected of them, and things like that. And they do help with behavior, with understanding. And so we know all the things about why a routine can be important for anybody. But for our students with significant physical and developmental needs, especially our students at the sensory motor stage of development, routines are going to be absolutely critical. This is a strategy that can be used so that our students really can become more coherent with what's expected of them in that situation. And we're going to need to be even more specific about making sure that these routines have very clear steps, very clear accommodations, and really clear beginning and ends to really help set the student up for success within this instruction. These students are going throughout their day, and so many different things are being done to them and for them, and they're being moved, and they're probably a little bit stressed at a lot of points in their day. But when it comes to when we're going to be instructing on new skills and teaching IEP goals, we want to make sure that they feel safe and ready to learn. So we're going to utilize this routines-based instruction approach for them. What's going to make it instructional is that we are targeting skills within the learner's zone of proximal development. So we have a routine, a clear beginning and end, and logical steps that we're going to follow. But we're going to make it instructional because we have an IEP goal that we know is in that ZPD that we're going to target in the routine. So if they were at the attention zone as a present level, we're going to have some skills in that at the exploration zone that we're going to target in our routine. That means that we can expect them to make progress because we know it's within the ZPD. It's also going to be instructional because we're using highly attractive learning media. We're not just choosing random objects, random items. We are choosing something that we've taken data on that we know is highly engaging and motivating. And that's good teaching. And so that's how we know that that is going to help this routine be successful. It's instructional because it has really carefully considered accommodations and supports. We are pulling in team members. We are collaborating with our OTs to make sure that we're providing really good physical support to get the best engagement with those objects as possible. We are working with our physical therapists to make sure that the positioning is going to be just right to help get the support they need to be alert and engaged. We're bringing in our VI expertise and making sure that we have opportunities to look at objects and to engage with the objects in a tactile and meaningful way. Working with our SLP to make sure that we are using a great object symbol for the beginning of our routine, that we're considering the language that we're using to support those early communication skills, and that we're being responsive listeners throughout the routine. So we're really bringing in all those accommodations and we're designating it really clearly within our routine. And then it's instructional because we're doing it in a consistent, strategic way. And we're doing this on a regular basis so that we begin to strengthen and establish these neurological networks. And doing so time and time again is really where we begin to see this progress. And when we did our research study with our students, this is truly what I believe made the difference. Each of these different things that we did were taken so seriously and done so strategically, and we did it consistently for many, many months, that for the first time, we saw really significant progress in each and every one of the students that participated. So this is really what our research showed that needs to happen to make your routines instructional, and so that we can expect to see that progress that we want to see. So I'm going to show you an example of what the routine template looks like when we're creating an instructional routine based on the sensing and learning approach. And this is also provided in the book, and it's also provided in the links. This is how we design the routine to make sure that we're incorporating all of these key factors that I just discussed. So the top part is going to be where you really plan out who's going to do the routine, what supporting members are going to be observing the routine, those other related service providers and instructional service providers, where in the room or where in the school is this going to take place, what materials do you need, the position, the frequency, and duration. And so that top part is kind of the planning. And then on the bottom part, this is where you are going to really plan out each and every step. One of the things I absolutely love about the sensing and learning routine template is that it begins with the learner's steps. So the first thing we want to consider at every step of the routine is, what is my student going to do? What is my student's job in this step? And that's really important because we want to make sure that we are setting them up to be as active a participant as possible. And then the next column is where we're going to indicate what accommodations are needed for them to participate at that maximum participation level. So again, those visual impairment accommodations, supports, words we're going to say, positions, anything we need to take into account as we present that opportunity for the student. And then in the third column, this is where we're going to put the embedded skills. This is where we're going to state one of those skills within their instructional zone. And in the book Sensing and Learning, there is an amazing scope and sequence of skills for each zone of the sensory motor stage. And this is where I pull my IEP goals from. In the book, it even talks about how to turn some of those skills into a goal, how to write that in a measurable way. And we can place that right in the routine template so that we can take data on it. We can look for the skill that we are trying to teach at each and every step. So this is just a beautiful way to script the routine lesson plan and have it really clear for the teacher who's doing the routine, for any observing team members or administrators that are coming to observe. And it really ensures that we're doing the routine in a consistent way every single time. So this has been a great tool for my team when we're doing our routines. Okay, so now I want to show you, I want to put this all together. We talked about
exploration.
Can you pause it? Okay, thank you. We talked about our student Arna, and you saw her assessment at the beginning for her present level, and she was at attention. And when we did her learning media assessment, one of her +3 items was bells. She really loved the sound of bells. It really got a kind of a big positive reaction from her. And we knew that we wanted to use that for a routine. Since her present level was attention, we knew that we were going to target instructional skills at the exploration level. Because she has pretty significant physical disabilities, we really struggled with what can we do to get her to participate with these objects? How can we find a way to really teach her that her body can have an impact and effect on an object. So you're going to see here the routine that we scripted for her that really focuses on teaching her those exploration body to object skills using a highly motivating object. And I just want you to think about what you notice in this routine about the accommodations maybe that we considered, and how we really structured the routine to maximize her participation.
Ready?
Go ahead.
The bell is on your hand. Move hand.
In phase 1 of the routine, Ms. Mallory places the bells on Arna's hands, knees, feet, and head. She labels each body part and tactually models movement to make the bells ring.
The bell is on your knee. Move knee. The bell is on your foot. Move foot. The bell is on your foot. Move foot. The bell is on your knee. Move knee. Good. All right, the bell is on your head. Move head. Good. All right, Arna, it's your turn.
In the second phase of this routine, Ms. Mallory places the bells on each body part and gives Arna ample time to move them herself in order to make the bells ring.
Get ready. The bell is on your hand. Move hand. Good job, Arna. All right. The bell is on your hand. Move hand. Good job. All right. The bell is on your knee. Move knee. Good. Moved knee. All right. The bell is on your foot. Move foot.
After 12 seconds with no movement, Ms. Mallory gives Arna a verbal and physical prompt.
Move foot.
After waiting an additional 12 seconds, she provides Arna with physical assistance for movement.
I'm going to help you. Move foot.
Ms. Mallory moves the bells to Arna's other foot.
All right, the bell is on your foot. Move foot.
Ms. Mallory uses concise verbal instructions and remains quiet during wait time so that Arna can focus her attention on her movement. While Ms. Mallory is exposing Arna to basic body parts vocabulary, the main goal of the routine is for Arna to learn the cause and effect relationship between moving her body and hearing the bells ring.
Arna, move me.
After sufficient wait time, Ms. Mallory provides Arna with verbal and physical prompts.
Okay, I'm going to help you. Let's move knee. All right, last one. The bell's on your head, Arna. Move head. Move head. All right, I'm going to help you. Move head. Yay. All right. Move finished. All done.
May.
Hopefully you loved watching that routine with Arna. I've watched it 1,000 times and it never gets old to me, because I can remember being part of that team initially as we planned that routine, unsure whether Arna would ever make those bells move because we hadn't seen her initiating movement like that before. So it was so exciting with the routine, how carefully we planned it out, how carefully we considered the accommodations, really thinking about what we expected her to do within the routine, and then seeing it happen after Miss Mallory did that routine with her over and over and over again. Just beginning to see all of those things emerge was really, really incredible.
Bells routine. Exploration. Arna.
Some of the things that I think really made it really impactful were just some of the accommodations, just thinking about the pacing that we did in the routine, how much thought we put into, how much time we wanted to wait in expectation of her moving her body. And just the limited amount of talking that happened within each of those steps, just the thought behind that and making sure that we were giving Arna the opportunity to think about what she needed to do with her body and move the parts of her body that she could in the best way that she could possible. So those were some of the things that I still notice when I watched the video, and hopefully you noticed some of those things too, and that you could see how we took the components of her assessment and developed this routine. I just want to make a couple comments about, as we watch this routine as a team, kind of how our role came to be. Obviously, we were part of this assessment, part of designing the routine and planning that out. And then we also helped as we continue to consult, to observe, to notice when we started seeing her initiating those movements with the bells. And really, as a team, what we were looking for, especially, was when we started to see mastery of those skills. And that's really important because we want to make sure that when our students are showing us that they have the understanding and the ability to execute those steps of the routine that we are hoping that they would, we need to make sure that we are continually expanding the routine. We want to make sure that then when she's achieved those exploration level skills, we can move her to the next zone. So for Arna, as you see, she was able to do the movement with her body. She's showing us she has the concepts of cause and effect with her body. We knew it was time to move on to function level skills. So what we're going to show next is the routine that we developed for her using her iPad as a book reader. Actually, I think we're going to show first the one with the music. And she's using the switch to make the music play on the iPad. And that switch in this case is a tool that she's using to activate the music on the iPad. So it moves from an exploration level skill to a function level skill. So this is just a great example of how we took the routine, we observed it, we saw the progress, and then we expanded it to create a new routine, teaching a new skill. So we're going to take a look now at Arna with the iPad. Get to see it in rewind. There we go.
iPad Rufus reading routine with head switch. Function level routine. Arna learns means ends by using a switch as a tool to turn pages in storybook.
Is this the one you wanted, Stacey?
That is perfect. I like this one the best. That's great.
Okay.
Arna moves her head to activate the switch, which turns the pages of the iPad story.
Rufus was a monster, a very, very big monster.
Arna listens to each page of the story before activating the switch again. Arna looks to Ms. Mallory and then taps the switch with her cheek again to turn the page.
Was one of the nicest nicest monsters around.
Ms. Mallory provides ample wait time and remains very quiet so Arna can focus on her movement. Arna looks to Ms. Mallory and vocalizes. Ms. Mallory provides a simple physical and verbal prompt.
You can do it. Try again.
After thinking for more than 30 seconds, with determination, Arna looks again to Ms. Mallory and then turns the page.
Rufus was also very polite. He would always
Almost finished.
Arna looks to her teacher and vocalizes again.
Is it funny? You like this one?
suddenly a group of policemen surrounded Rufus.
Last page.
Arna yawns, vocalizes, and turns the last page.
Suddenly, Rufus's frown became a great, big, beautiful smile.
Aw, yay. The end. Good job reading, Rufus.
Arna demonstrated the cognitive skill of means ends by using a switch as a tool to turn pages of her book. She demonstrated understanding of the function of the iPad for reading sequential pages by laughing and smiling in anticipation of hearing favorite pages read aloud.
All right, so I think that's just a great example of how we really intentionally chose to use the switch after Arna demonstrated that she had body to object understanding. We then use the switch as tool use instruction. If you remember from the bells routine, we use the bells on all different parts of her body. And part of that too is really looking at which parts of her body had the most movement ability, what seemed to have the biggest responses from her. And her head was the most consistent part of her body that we got a response from. So that's part of the reason too, we were looking for what could be the best place to use a switch in a functional way. So that's where it kind of turned into using a head switch for Arna. So just love this example because it kind of just walks you through the whole process of the sensing and learning approach. It takes us from the beginning with the assessment, determining their present level, finding something they love with the learning media assessment, and then using those pieces to design a really powerful instructional routine. We had a routine with Arna that we did with the bells, teaching those skills. Once she mastered those skills, we moved on by expanding to a new routine with new skills. So that's just kind of sensing and learning in a nutshell, really encompasses all of the key components that make up this approach. And again, each and every student that was part of our research study showed this kind of progress throughout. And in the handouts, there's links to each of their videos, so you can see them from beginning to end as well. And these can just be really powerful as you think about your students, thinking about their present levels, what makes them motivated to engage, and then how could you design a routine to target those things in a really meaningful way. So hopefully that really resonated with you all. I know Tristan has some really neat things to share about some of the materials as well available from APH that can support the different routines and things that your students find motivating.
Okay, thank you, Stacey. I thought I had. Oh, there we go. Okay. At one point, I changed the batteries in my keyboard while you were talking, so hopefully it's going to work better now. So, like I had explained earlier, that a lot of the items that were in the original sensory learning kit, they were always available for you to purchase separately. So here I am showing you the stick switch, we have a little fellow here who has the vibrating pad on his feet. He's resting his feet on top of it, and when he activates the stick switch, his feet receive that vibration. So then next to it, we have a young toddler with her father, and she is activating APH's Joy Player using the scallop switch. Now, the Joy Player itself was never part of the SLK, but we created it specifically for the personal music routine that was included in the SLK. So that is why we designed it so it would accept all the switches, your standard switches. And you can also, if you have a sip and puff switch, you can activate the Joy Player using a sip and puff switch as well. And then next to that, we have our tactile switch. And here it comes with a bumpy surface, but it also comes with two smooth plates that you just snap on top. If perhaps you have a student who doesn't like the bumps, they have an aversion to the bumps, and so you need to snap on the smooth plate. Or those two plates can also be used as putting like an object or a symbol on top, and they can be used in a choice-making routine, and whichever one they choose, you snap that one onto the plate, and they do that particular activity with the switch. Okay, next we have our Power Select, and this is our AC environmental control unit. It's been around for years and years, but it's a good workhorse. And I will say the one thing that makes the Power Select different from other environmental control units is that we use GFCI outlets, because we know a lot of the learners, they can be involved in kitchen routines like making pudding with it, or one of the SLK videos we have online is from a young man in Frisco, Texas, and he is doing a blender routine. So whenever you're working around any kind of liquids or anything, just for safety, you should really have GFCI outlets. And then next to that, we have our adapted fan that also comes with an adapter so that you can use it with the Power Select. So that white adapter that comes with it, we pair that with it. The Honeywell fan itself does not come with that white adapter. We get that white adapter, we pair the two together, and this way the Honeywell fan can operate with the Power Select using AC, your outlet on the wall, or it can also be used with the just straight with a regular switch, just a standard switch all on its own, okay? And then also with this, if you look over left here, or to the right, I think it's to the right here, you see the small green and yellow switch, and that is a combination switch and environmental control unit. So it will also work with that. So what I want to really point out again is on the left, you have the Power Select that you have to plug into your wall and use it. And the one on the right is battery operated. So if you don't have access to an outlet, you can just use it using the batteries, but they are both environmental control units. So you can see the two black knobs on top of the Power Select. You see those same two black knobs on the back of that switch. So it is a combination switch and environmental control unit. And here we are showing it hooked up to the vibrating pad. Now, earlier I showed you the little boy operating the vibrating pad with a stick switch. That at that time, the vibrating pad was plugged into a Power Select that we had on the floor next to his wheelchair. That is how the vibrating pad was designed. It comes with an adapter so that you can plug it into the Power Select. But we had requests from teachers who would like to use it in a location where they did not have access to a wall outlet. So here we have the vibrating pad and we have the battery powered select switch, and connecting the two is our DC supplement adapter. That's been out for a little over a year now, and it allows you to use something that was originally switch adapted just using an AC with an adapter. You can now use it using DC or battery power. So you have that option now of being able to use your vibrating pad either which way. Here also, we always had in the SLK, we had the flashlight with the different colored lenses, and we also have always sold that as a separate product. It's actually called the Variable Beam Flashlight Kit. And that book is under modernization right now because we are changing out the old SLK routines that were written in the Color Beam book, and we're replacing them with the new sensing and learning routines. So hopefully that will be available soon. And then next here, we have an item that was not actually part of the SLK, but it's very, very crucial to the whole methodology behind the new sensing and learning and the old SLK, and that is using an anticipation box or a now box, perhaps you're calling it, to let that learner know what next is going to happen in their life. So that way they can be prepared for it. They're not surprised. They start to develop that anticipation for an activity that they truly enjoy. This is a photo that we also have a video of it online. It's such an adorable video to watch. It was done in New Mexico, and I can tell you that that's little Max, and that's his teacher, Mary Vaughn. So that I recommend you watch that little video as well. And one day, well, now Max is older, so he could advance from using his anticipation box to connecting two boxes together. So he has now and next, and so he learns that concept. And then he would connect a third box to it, and now he has the beginning of a daily activity calendar there. So that was never part of the SLK, but it was a very, very crucial part to the whole methodology behind the SLK and now the sensing and learning. And I had discussed earlier the Joy Player, and we're showing that here with a young guy who is in the middle of an SLK routine using the Joy Player. And next to it, I have an adult with her teaching partner, and she is learning to use the Joy Player for the first time. And we really, really want to bring home to you that sensing and learning, it is a methodology or an approach that you can really use at any age, any chronological age, okay? Fitting into what the zones of proximal development that Stacey spoke to you earlier. Okay, so we would like to thank you, and I have something on this slide here which gives you the information if you would like to access the JVIB article that shows and outlines the research that Stacey had talked about earlier that Millie did with her and her team in Coppell. And is there anything else you would like to add at this time, Stacey?
I don't think so. I just, it's just a passion of mine I know that the sensory learning kit was just such a beloved kit and resource for so many teachers. And also that so many teachers knew about it, but maybe didn't know how to use all of those materials in the kit. And so my hope for sensing and learning is just that through these Access Academy webinars, also the APH Hive is available. We have another course on this material. We have so many of the digital tools that my hope is that teachers and their teams will really take the time to learn the approach and really be able to put it into practice, because not only does our research back it up, but my experience every day and working with my own students and the teachers I work with, I just see the impact and the difference it makes. So I'm really hoping.
And you know what? I did not allow Erin time to give out her one of her questions. Is it too late to pull out that question about the DC supplement adapter?
No, it's not. And as a matter of fact, I tried to get in there to do it, but I could
I know
not
I
unmute
talked fast. I'm
myself.
sorry.
No, that's okay. So I'm going to launch this now. And our question is, do you know that did you know that APH has a DC supplement adapter? And have you used the DC supplement adapter if you have one.
And yeah, and we also on the handout that we turned in for this session, it has links to all the products. It has links to the videos. And I believe they are recording this. So any other links we put on here, like I know I had a slide with all the assessment forms, but again, you can go to the shopping page and go to downloads and you will see the links to access those forms.
So we
Yes.
do have that about 72% did not know
All
that
right.
APH has the DC supplement adapter, and those who have it have not used it at about 77% as well.
Okay. Okay. If we have a few minutes, the only thing I could do is that if people want me to show them the Excel sheets, I can do that. They're opened on my computer.
I have,
But they may have questions if they want to use this time for questions.
Yes, please
yes,
put your questions into the chat if you have questions now. There have been a lot of amazing thank yous already in the chat, but if you have any particular questions, now is the good time.
and I just dropped into the chat a link where you can find the resource document referenced. You will just need to scroll down to the bottom of that page. Under the heading resources, you will find the document Building Communication Links. And that is the document Tristan has referenced with all the products and various other links there.
And this has been recorded, and typically we will post on our YouTube channel within a week or so, but you know, if all goes well, and the handouts and PowerPoint will be up on the Access Academy website soon.
Great.
In the chat, we have a question. At what point did you know that it was best to move from the bells routine to the iPad switch routine?
Yes, that's a great question. As a team, when we originally wrote the bells routine, we did discuss between us, you know, what did we feel like mastery would look like for Arna when we felt confident that we could move on. And a question I often get when I show that video is just, you do notice that some body parts are easier for her to move than others. So we weren't necessarily looking for consistent mastery with every single body part moving the bells, but just overall that she had consistency in moving the bells within the routine. And typically I tend to really like an 80% consistency for mastery. And so that's usually what we go for when we're looking at mastery of a skill. So once we began to see that consistently, the team felt it was time for a new routine. I will tell you that we kept the bells routine. It didn't go away. We still utilized that within her time with Mallory. We just also added a second routine for her. And so if you go and look at some of the other videos of the students, you'll see that there's times when we start to see mastery and we need to expand a routine that we do create an entire new routine focused on new skills. Sometimes we actually take the same routine and add some additional steps. So that's another way that you can expand to new skills, is taking your existing routine and adding some new steps for higher level skills within it. So it's just important as a team that we're communicating, we're talking, we're collaborating, and we're observing. And once we start to see that consistent progress, that we're thinking, okay, now what? What can we expect her to do next? And so I think that's a great question, and just something as a teacher we need to be constantly looking for and collaborating about. Thank you.
And another question is, do you find that there is some overlap between the role of the TCVI and the role of the OT?
What a great question. And honestly, the more that I work with this population of students, I see how my role overlaps a lot with a lot of the other service providers. You know, many times we're talking about how we build the foundations of communication for these students, and so many crossovers with our SLPs and with the OTs as we look for use of vision and motor and access, and all of the other service providers. Each of our little areas of expertise, we can collaborate and build together. And I think we each have valuable information to share. And also it's okay when there's some overlap. One of my favorite parts of the process with this whole research study and with my team was, you know, as we spent so much time observing routines with our students and working with these students and with each other, one of my favorite things was when we'd be in a meeting and, you know, maybe the physical therapist would say, you know, Stacey, I don't know, but I don't think we're providing enough visual contrast for her to look at that object. I'm like, yes, I guess we've been doing my job, you know, and sharing those things when other team members can start to recognize that within our collaboration. So I think there are times when we have a crossover, and I just kind of tend to think the more collaboration and the more conversation about those things, the better. We can each kind of bring our background and expertise to strengthen our role and our impact with the team. But that's a great question. And I think some of these tools from APH are great ways to kind of bring in our other team members and helping us each understand our role within the team and how we can support the students. So sharing these links to these webinars can be a great way to help educate other team members about this product and this approach. And another thing that I'll say is that in sensing and learning, in the section about the scope and sequence of skills for students at the sensory motor stage, there's a great chart where it breaks down the skills based on cognitive, communication, motor, and social skills. So that's also another great place to see where each of our areas and roles kind of fit into the process and how we can collaborate and learn from one another as we work with these students.
And I would just like to give a shout out to Stacey because she wrote the section in Sensing and Learning on the team collaboration and how important it is and how you do it. So great job, Stacey.
Thanks.
And we have one other question in the chat, and that is, do you utilize the UCAT to assess body movements that are the best to utilize switches, etc.?
You know, I'm not sure if I've used the UCAT before. I will say that our OTs and our AT specialists are always heavily involved in that process. So I'm sure they're well aware of that resource or have something similar, but those are great things to bring in as we're looking at assessing for switch use. We want to make sure, you know, and we kind of talked about it as we talked about when to introduce switches for the purpose of teaching the function and tool use, function of objects. And so we just want to make sure that it is meaningful, that it's purposeful. And so having that data to back up, not only is the student cognitively ready for that skill, but where is the best place to place that switch? All of that data is really, really important.
All right. Wonderful. I'm going to pause the recording. Is listen